Lots more intriguing science still to come. A little later, we're going to meet a scientist on the front lines trying to solve the mystery of what's killing so many bats in the United States. We're also going to take a close look at Einstein's brain, thanks to someone who's been studying pictures of it from more than 50 years ago.
And we're going to give you an update on that British expedition to the North Pole we've been covering. That's later on Planet Now. But first, lighting up with a battery-powered cigarette.
It's no secret cigarette smoking is bad for you, and smokers were heartened when electronic cigarettes started to appear on the market, said to be just like the real thing, but safer. But recently, Health Canada stopped the sale of e-cigarettes because not much is known about just how safe they are. Dr. Carl Phillips is at the University of Alberta. He's testing e-cigarettes, joins me now from his lab in Edmonton. So, Carl, how do these e-cigarettes work anyway?
Well, it's an interesting technology. Here's an example of one of them right here. There are several brands, but basically they all work the same. The front portion of this is a battery. In the middle, there's a heating element that vaporizes what you breathe in. And at the end, there's a cartridge full of a gel of what's called propylene glycol and water. And in that is dissolved nicotine. So when you inhale, that activates the heating element powered off of the battery, vaporizes some of the gel, and you inhale it very much like a smoke, like this.
So you're inhaling the nicotine, but also the vaporized gel?
That's right. So the gel is what the nicotine is basically dissolved into. The nicotine, of course, is the reason why this product is attractive to smokers. The other material is necessary to carry it into your body. It also has this feature of making that puff of smoke that you just saw me make, which actually isn't smoke. It's a vapor. And it creates some mouth and throat feel that is somewhat similar to smoking, definitely not exactly the same, but it has most of the elements of smoking without, of course, the actual combustion, which causes all of the health problems.
So is part of this research forcing you or encouraging you to smoke e-cigarettes too?
Well, this one actually is nicotine-free that I'm using right now. There's some made that way just for purposes of going through the motions, if that's what somebody likes, or being sociable, or so on, or in this case, demonstrating without actually consuming nicotine.
So Carl, what are the possible outstanding safety issues with e-cigarettes?
Well, the biggest concern right now is possible quality control issues. There are several companies that are doing a very good job of making these products. They've tested them. They've shown that they deliver only what we know they're supposed to deliver into your mouth, into your lungs. Unfortunately, there is a counterfeiting problem, basically. There were, at last count, 2 or 3 dozen factories. These are all made in China, the good ones and the questionable ones. So 2 or 3 dozen new factories that started making knockoff products. And though we don't have any reason to believe that there's any risk with those, we can't be quite so confident. So, of course, this is causing you to breathe something into your mouth. And if a bad contaminant was introduced into it, that could be quite bad. That's really the major legitimate safety concern at this point.
So what is going to be or is your approach to researching them?
Well, there are several levels of research that need to be done. One has been done to some extent, though we certainly need more of it, which is simple purity testing. That is, we need to be able to demonstrate that when somebody takes a puff on one of these, what they're getting into their body is just the nicotine and the water and the propylene glycol, maybe some flavoring, but nothing that you wouldn't want to have going into your mouth. And that type of chemistry testing is basic product quality control that all the companies should be expected to do before putting these on the market. The second level of testing then is what impact these products have for the consumer. Now, on one hand, it's almost one of those science questions that seems kind of silly to research. If somebody is puffing on one of these with its relatively low risk instead of puffing on an actual cigarette, then they're clearly better off. And even if they smoke the occasional cigarette still, if they've mostly switched, it's better for them. So there's not much reason to test to show that if somebody's using one of these, they aren't using a cigarette.
And I guess you could, even if you'd never smoked before and you started smoking e-cigarettes, you could get hooked on nicotine, couldn't you?
Oh, it's certainly true. In fact, by our estimates, something like 50 or 60% of the population actually likes nicotine. That is, if they could consume nicotine as easily and in such a socially acceptable way as drinking coffee, like most of us do, they would do it. And so when smoking was very popular, that portion of the population smoked. It's certainly possible that introducing a very low-risk way of consuming nicotine would invite more people who gave up smoking, perhaps, because they knew it was terrible for them to start again. Frankly, from a public health perspective, that's not a problem. People do things that are slightly bad for their health all the time in order to make their brains work better with coffee or their lives more enjoyable, like recreational driving. And this wouldn't be much different from that.
Well, it's a fascinating, I mean, these are very interesting products, and we'll look forward to catching up on the research as you progress with it.
Great. I look forward to letting you know.
Thanks a lot. Dr. Carl Phillips is an Associate Prof of Public Health Sciences at the University of Alberta. Joined me today from Edmonton.
Here's a question for you. Do you have an inventive mind that's overflowing with cool ideas? Or better yet, have you built any of those brilliant ideas? Well, if you have, we'd love to see your creativity showcased through your pics or videos. That's where Planet U comes into play. Planet U is our new web-based feature that lets you upload pictures or video to our site for all the world to see. All you have to do is log on to discoverychannel.ca/planetu and start making this planet yours.
Stick around after the break. We have the strange details of a car that runs on chocolate. We're not kidding. And that's just one of the stories featured in today's Planet Now segment, and that's heading your way next.